You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
That is all she wrote for the month of November. It's now December. Nick Alberga, Dave Pagnotta, the Monday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. How was your weekend, Dave?
It was solid. It was nice. It was nice to see some guys wake up, playing better, which was a positive. So I'll take that. It was, you know what? I had a nice wholesome weekend, actually. I stayed in, watched hockey, had a little cocoa. I didn't, but how was yours?
Mine was shit. I wanted to start today's podcast with a complete PSA. I haven't even told you this story, but on Friday, as many of you know, I love going to the gym. I went at 3 o'clock, same time. I go at the same time, and maybe somebody's on to me. But I went to the gym, and what happened on Friday is somebody broke into my locker and stole my credit cards and my driver's license.
Oh, shit.
And what ensued after that was just going bank to bank and calling and going left and right. And next thing you know, it took 2 or 3 hours to resolve everything, and I still got to do this and that this week. But just a quick PSA for everybody out there. There are scumbags in this world, so look out for those people. It 'tis the season too. Like, I mean, this is not the first thing that's happened in my life in the last 5 years. Some shit's happened around the Christmas holidays. Just be more mindful. That's like the PSA I wanted to put forth on today's podcast, because it was a shitty Friday. And then on top of that, I had to watch a Leafs game, which made it even worse. So,
Well, sorry that happened. I'll give you back those cards later. Look, the Leaf game was a positive. I mean, that's a shitty
Saturdays.
Friday, but Saturdays was a nice one.
Yeah. Friday
Nice
was a
to see
joke, like the game on
Well,
Friday. But yeah, just full
That's right,
circle.
back to back, I forgot.
Some asshole stole my cards and was gallivanting around Toronto, I guess, trying to spend up my cards. But I caught on to them do that really quickly. And I don't want to mention the gym here, but I show up there and just they want to take no responsibility for anything. They're puzzled. They were absolutely puzzled. I'm starting to think it's an inside job, you know?
Maybe. You know what? Rosie wasn't here Friday. He's not here today.
There's the answer.
All Rosie.
Yeah, maybe it's Rosie. Anyways, that's how my weekend went. But again, felt better on Saturday with that Maple Leafs victory. But still, as a whole, I don't know if your mindset's changed at all. Mine hasn't. I still think the Leafs are a middle of the pack team. There's no point in trying to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. I would try to bottom out, finish bottom 5. I don't view this team, when I watch the rest of the league the way I do in Colorado and Dallas and Tampa and all these teams, the Maple Leafs aren't even in that conversation. Great. They beat Pittsburgh. They hammered Dubas. Great. But the game of Washington really, really pissed me off. I won't lie.
No, you got to let's see consistency. We've talked about this. Let's see consistency. Let's see these guys kind of rolling if they can, a little bit more regularly. They got 2 more road games until what is it? The Habs on Saturday, right? So
Yeah.
First game's tomorrow against Florida. They got 1 more after that on Thursday, and then they got the Habs on Saturday for that potential revenge game from the other weekend. So let's see consistency. Let's see this group going. But it was nice to see these guys actually respond. Joshua scoring a goal, Domi, getting in the mix. Like, it's nice to see these guys that, got sent a message. Now that they're healthy, you can send these types of messages by benching guys or tossing them up in the press box. Let's see them respond. But, okay, you did. Let's see that happen more than once. There has to be a consistent level of play for this team to get into the mix. And, I expected this club to be, we talked about this at the start of the season. I expected them to be, a wild card team, maybe fighting for 3rd in the division because of some of the changes that were made with this group. I also thought Florida was going to be doing better. So there's an opportunity here tomorrow to collect 2 more points. But again, getting those guys with consistency to play. It was also nice to see 7 guys light up the lamp, not just 1 or 2 guys take control.
Bunch of you in the chat asking the name of the gym. I'm going to say it because it's the 3rd or 4th time it's happened. Liberty Village Good Life. Okay. Do not go there because it's the 3rd or 4th time. And I know it's completely unrelated to the conversation we're having, but it's the 3rd or 4th time my shit's been stolen. So anyways,
hold on. It's been that many times?
Well, different variations. The last time my lock was taken off my locker, nothing was taken inside because I forgot to add that to the story. I never bring my wallet to the gym. The only reason why I brought my wallet to the gym was to take out money for coat check because I went out Friday, had a couple drinks with my softball team. That's the only reason. It was just bad luck on my part. And somebody, I guess there's a whole ring around here where they go into lockers. And I mean, the etiquette of the thief too, to go into my locker, grab my cards, lock up my lock again, and walk away like nothing happened. Pretty crazy stuff. And then you go ask the front desk and nobody has any clue. They're going to write out reports left and right. We got no cameras. We got no sign-in tabs, nothing. So nobody had an answer for me.
Well, third or fourth time, I'd be pretty pissed off too. Liberty Good
Yeah.
Life, get your heads out of your ass and fix that. Pretty simple.
I didn't want to say their name, but people in the chat asked. I had to because it's the 15th time this has transpired. But getting back to your point, I was laughing over the weekend, like the headlines. This was a long time coming for the Maple Leafs. Has anybody been watching this team this season through 25 games? Was it actually a long time coming for them to beat somebody badly? It wasn't for me.
I mean, again, nice to see everybody, kind of get their heads out of their ass and roll. That was nice to see, but a long time coming. No, a long time coming is doing that game after game. Like, you obviously not going to win every friggin' night, but like, let's see that level of effort happen, like over a 5-game stretch, not just a one-off. Again, a couple weekends or a couple Thursdays ago, they lost to Columbus in a shootout or overtime. No, sorry, overtime. But they played a probably at the time their most sound and structured game in like weeks. So, okay, you lost an OT, cool. Build with that. Then they played the Habs allegedly, and the Habs rolled them. And so let's see what happens tomorrow. Let's see what happens Thursday. Let's see what happens Saturday. Long time coming is consistency. They haven't had that. So let's give it a stretch. And then, then I can jump on the long time coming kind of vibe.
This is a great handle at Big Dump Taker. First regulation win in like a month. You are so right. It was their first regulation win since November 5th against the Utah Mammoth. It had been a long time coming for a regulation win. I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to be as optimistic and positive as possible. You guys know me. I had the infamous tweet like a month ago that said I've never been more convinced the Maple Leafs are winning the Cup. I'm in a bad way right now when it comes to this team. I do not believe in them. Like Dave, I need to see a bunch of games strung together to suggest this team's going to somehow find their way out of this. And I can't use injuries as an excuse. You watched the game over the weekend, Tampa on Broadway. Every excuse to lose that game. Their backup goalie's playing, Point's not playing, Hedman's out, Chernak. The list goes on and on. They not only went into MSG and beat the Rangers, they beat the shit out of them, though. Like, it wasn't even close. And I just don't know if I put the Leafs on that type of level right now as like a Tampa or anybody else right now in this division.
No, they're not. They're not. Yeah. It's that simple. They're not. That's why in the beginning of the season, I expected them to be wild card 1 or maybe battling for third in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Just because I expected Tampa to rebound. I expected Florida to stay in the pack. Didn't expect Barkov's injury, so that obviously has affected their play. But Kachuk's starting to skate. He'll be, well, he was not going to be back Tuesday, but he'll be back eventually. Closer. So that means that team will be better. You got to step up game after game. This can't just be, like I said, this can't be a one-off. This can't be all right, Chief, thanks, we proved it to you, we can do this, and then go to sleep on Tuesday. You can't. They've had time. They've had a little bit of day, a couple days in the sun here. They're going to hit the ice today for practice. Go out there and go collect 2 freaking points. Then go do it Thursday. Then get some revenge on the Habs on Saturday. Put a string together. And then you can start convincing people that, all right, maybe this team is, playoff worthy.
Fair enough. And by the way, I appreciate the support by many of you here in the chat regarding my ventures on Friday. I'm still pissed off about it, clearly. Our Super Chat charity partner is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. It is launch day as well for Off the Roster. Are you the kind of Toronto sports fan who rides every high, curses through every low, and still shows up for more? then you need to check out Off the Roster, your new must-listen to Toronto sports show. Catch Cabby, Lindsay Dunn, and Dan Riccio, who we had on the show on Friday, every weekday morning at 10 a.m. on the Nation Network YouTube channel and anywhere you stream your podcast. Toronto sports isn't just something to watch. It's a culture. Off the Roster, the new sound in the six. Don't you dare miss it. And speaking of which, the launch day, go and check out today's episode with Toronto Blue Jay Ernie Clement, one of your faves, Dave.
Oh, love the guy. Yeah. I'm excited for that. I didn't get a chance to watch this morning. I'm going to catch up on it later, but prepping for this. But yeah, look, Jay's fever. You had Scherzer on the show. What was it, last week?
We
or a
did,
little
yeah.
over a week
We're
ago?
the only Toronto sports show to have him on, but people didn't know the name of the podcast, unfortunately, when promoting the interview. It's crazy.
Well,
But
you had him on. You still had him on. You've had him on a
did
couple
have him
times.
on, yes.
So
we have, yes.
yeah. So you got Max coming on, this show. You got Clement doing Off the Roster. Let's see. Can we get Bo Bichette? Come on, sign, buddy. Let's get this over with.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm
sorry.
with you on that
Jay,
front. So
sorry.
Ernie Clement, checked out that the debut edition of Off the Roster out right now, the Nation Network YouTube channel. Speaking of which, Anna Dua, one of our close personal friends, dropping by, covers the Maple Leafs on a daily basis, and looking forward to speaking to Anna in about, I guess, 20 minutes here, Dave.
Yeah, I'm interested to get her perspective on things.
Yeah.
It's we all know this is an up and down freaking season so far. We're just past the quarter mark, so there's still a lot of runway left, and what, 4 points out of a playoff spot right now. But does she see the consistency happening that we're talking about? So we'll get her take on it.
I don't know. I got laser eye surgery. I don't see it. I definitely do not. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Crave the Stats is a presentation of Uber Eats. Every time the Leafs play at home, you can get these exclusive deals only on Uber Eats. Firehouse Subs, Bogo Brisket Hat-Trick, Kibo Sushi, which I had over the weekend, which was phenomenal. Bogo California Roll, Shelby Shawarma, Bogo Traditional Wrap. That's right, buy one, get one. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. So yet another weekend split. Again, sour taste in my mouth when I think back to that Washington game. They were up 2-0. Joseph Woll was outstanding. They just couldn't shut the door on the Capitals. I just didn't like the second half of that game. I was wondering where the hell Willie Nylander was at. Maybe we'll talk about that a bit later on. But the Leafs are so wounded. They're so fragile. They have no confidence. And a confident team finds a way to win that game. And I'm just still rattled that they lost that game, Dave.
It's okay. It's nothing that we need to worry about with Willie.
Yeah.
So,
well, what the hell was that? Like, so I did some digging on that. Like, I was led to believe by multiple people doing some digging that Nylander was in fact sick. But then I see a comment like that, and then it was weird. Like the whole Amazon thing with Friedman comes out Thursday. Is this just another day in the life of covering the Toronto Maple Leafs, Dave?
probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always something kind of going on and whatnot. No, the timing was funny when Friedge put that out about the whole Amazon thing and the NHLPA getting involved and whatnot. But okay, you're sick. Just say you're sick.
That's it.
It's simple. Done. I felt like shit. I was puking my brains out, but I'm better now. Okay, gotcha. The ominous vibe that he I don't know. Anyway, not necessary. Just hey, just tell us. I was puking. I was on the toilet all day. Sucked. All right, cool. Maybe it wasn't even that. I don't know. I'm just saying. But
I shit myself.
yeah, little embarrassed. Sorry, couldn't make it. But yeah, just be straight up with that shit. It's the same. Like this kind of, and this is where people get annoyed because you get something like that, and Stolarz was supposed to be a week or whatever it was, nothing serious. And now it's like, oh, it's actually worse than we thought it was. And then all the stuff that happened last season, it's okay to be a little bit more transparent. We just talked about it with St. Louis, right? Like St. Louis comes out today. Snuggerud's got wrist surgery, gone 6 weeks. And then Torpachenko burned his legs at home in a home accident. Luosterainen, barbecue accident, burned his hands. Okay. Jack Hughes, slipped, cut his hand right here, all glass. That shit hurts. Sure. All right. Oh, don't worry. Nothing you need to worry about. Dude, you were sick. It's okay. Anyway, what the hell were we talking about before that? Oh, the Friday
The
game, the
Friday
Caps
game.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good first half, and then just kind of the wheels fell off. But for me, like the Caps are a solid team too, right? So
Yeah.
it was, I
Give
wanted
them
to see
credit.
that response again. So again, they woke up against Pittsburgh, and I mean, the Pens had a shitty game, clearly, obviously, but that response now build off that. I'm gonna beat a fucking dead horse here. Just keep building off that. Let's see what tomorrow brings. You're playing the Cats. They've pissed you off the last few years. Keep going. Show a little bit more emotion. Show more of that. But what I liked most, again, just to reiterate, what I liked most about the Pittsburgh win was it wasn't just, Austin and Nyes that got on the board. It was, you had 7 separate guys scoring. So pull that again tomorrow, and have your depth kicking in. One of the issues with so many teams is that they're so top heavy to an extent, they get shut down. You get nobody else jumping in the mix. So it was good to see Joshua and Domi and all these guys kind of enter that and have 7 different guys scoring. That's going to build up a little bit of confidence too. You want to build off that. Yeah, let's see what happens tomorrow. Then you had a couple days off in Fort Lauderdale. You unwind a bit, hit the ice today. Go have a strong performance again tomorrow.
Yeah, it was a barrage of execution, and response is a perfect way to sum up what we saw on Saturday against Pittsburgh. I thought it was a really strong outing. I thought it was great to see some chemistry built there with the Joshua Waugh McMahon line. I thought they were on the forecheck, playing their game, playing heavy, playing hard, getting on the D quick and fast, and everything you need from a third line. Don't like to number lines, but you need that type of, action in your roster. And I think you look at those 3 specifically, I was really, really impressed. Max Domi comes back after being a health bomb, gets 2 apples. It seems like only in Toronto you can go from the press box to the first line in a game, and that's exactly. But we saw the response from Domi. I was happy about that.
Earn that shit. Earn it.
Yeah.
And that's that. Like, I get the frustration earlier because so many guys were banged up, so you couldn't send that right message, right, to the guys. Like,
Yeah.
Kevin Bieksa was talking about this over the weekend on Hockey Night in Canada, just talking about, that's how you send a message now, by minimizing ice time or getting guys to go sit up top. Like, that's you want to motivate these guys in some fashion. You can't be yelling at them 24/7 anymore. This shit doesn't fly. You can do some of it, but how do you really control them? You control them with the ice time. So go sit down and go show me that you're earning more of this, and that was a blip. And fine, we'll put it behind us, but wake the hell up and get going. And it's not just with the Leafs, it's with any team. So it was good, again, to see the response from the guys who had to sat this past week, or who sat out this past week, to respond and get back into it. And one game. So let's not get too crazy. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. Let's see what happens all week over these next 3 games going into the, past the weekend against the Habs. Like, you need to see that response, because as nice as Saturday was, maybe that was a
move on.
blip.
Yeah.
Get to the next one.
I agree. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're about 10 minutes away or so from Sportsnet's Anadua, dropping by Leafs Morning Take. Got a bunch of super chats to get to in support of Sick Kids. Austin Juby, thank you so much for the super chat, all in caps, by the way, so you mean business. Let's hope this game tomorrow will be a win. That would be nice. Love the content. Appreciate that, I should say. Austin, Matthew writes in, will Benoit draw back in when he's back? Of course, missed the game over the weekend, I think attending to a family/personal matter. I would expect Benoit back in, right? Like, he has become a linchpin on the back end there.
Yeah, no, Benny's been good at, back there. It's somebody that they can count on. They're comfortable, obviously, with him back there. He's earned it. So unfortunate. You hope everything's okay with him. But when he does rejoin the club, then he'll, without a question, he's got a spot on that 6.
Shane writes in, and do you guys think Carlo could fetch a first rounder? That is a question better suited for the NHL insider, Dave Pagnotta. What are your thoughts on that?
No. Short answer. Sorry. Short answer is no. And that's not the sense that I've gotten from them with Carlo being available relative loose term. Um,
Yeah.
they want to upgrade. They're not going to start moving some of these guys for future assets. That contradicts the direction of what this team wants to, where this team wants to go. Would it be nice to, replenish a little bit and add to the cupboard, obviously. But I don't get the sense they're going in that direction. With it, I know you paid a decent price to get him, primarily because he had 2 more years at the time left on his contract. This wasn't a one-off. They expected what they saw from him last season to be what he should be doing the next 2 years, and this season's been, other than blocking a lot of shots, has been a little bit rough for him. So give him a little bit of leash. I mean, let's get him healthy and again consistent. But if they do move a guy like Carlo, it's probably because they're trying to upgrade in other areas or upgrade
And
the back end.
yeah, no, that makes sense. And Carlo could return as soon as tomorrow night against the Florida Panthers. We'll see if he practices with the team today, and they'll go from there. That could be a big time addition, but you got to get the right version of Carlo, not the guy we saw earlier on this season. Then he randomly left the lineup, maybe for a bit of a reset, obviously a bit banged up too. But I think in general, they're probably in a holding pattern. Not to speak for you, you're the insider, but I don't know how you can make a decision one way or another if you're selling or buying, unless somebody calls you and just makes you a remarkable offer and you're like, I got to accept it. I think they're going to be in a holding pattern for the next little while into January.
Yeah, that seems, I would agree with that. Because you want to, obviously they want to add, obviously they want to improve this team, but where they're at right now, and we talked about this earlier, Nick, you mentioned it, you don't want injuries to be an excuse, but it's also the reality of the situation. So you need to see what you've got with a fully healthy lineup here again, or as close to it as you can, because that's going to dictate what you need to do. They're not going to go out there and start, spending a shit ton to get, short-term rentals, guys on expiring deals. I think they want to bring in, the mindset of the Carlo trade is what they're looking at again, in terms of getting a guy with term who's controllable, who's not just going to come in for the rest of the season. So those guys aren't readily available, again, unless you're pulling out an offer out of left field and then you're forcing the team to do it, or vice versa. But this is a scenario where they're going to keep, plugging away. They're going to keep the calls. They're going to keep talking and, trying to see what's available, what's out there. And unless something falls into their lap, they're probably going to have to wait until later on in the season in that January timeframe. But at the same time, depending what happens with the rest of the league, you've got that little domino trickle effect that kicks in too. So if Calgary starts to get going, if Nashville starts to, get the market going, I mean, the Canucks end up pulling off, this was a week ago, where they sent out that memo that leaked ridiculously fast.
I wonder why.
So 30 minutes later, it started to get out. Anyway, if those teams start going and start making moves, then maybe that creates that little domino effect, and you see a little bit of urgency from some other teams. But outside of that, you're right. It's probably going to be something that happens if they do address anything later on in the season, around the halfway mark.
Jimmy 2 times, great handle in the chat, asks a fair question. I'm not a fan of it because this guy's my boy, but could Oliver Ekman-Larsson fetch a first round? I want to give some love to man. He's having a really, really strong offensive season and a push the last little while. Maybe he's trying to make Team Sweden for the Olympics. That's going to be difficult with the depth they have on that blue line, but for sure he's in consideration. 10 points in the last 9 games. I mean, he's effectively become their number one guy. I don't want to put it that way ahead of Riley, but he is getting points left and right now. Big goal over the weekend against Pittsburgh too.
He's been their best defenseman this season. Yes, he certainly he has. Probably get a first in a deal, probably add to it, but again, I don't think that's, Toronto's not selling. So I guess in theory, yes, you're probably getting, just on value and contract and everything, what he's done, you're probably getting a first plus for OEL. But let's also preface it by being, that's not the MO. That's not the indication that I've been given anyway, that's the MO of Brad Treliving and management. That is probably not going to happen unless they completely pull a 180 and say we're stripping it down. But I don't think so.
They got to be realistic, though, Dave. And again, for those of you who have been long time watchers and listeners of this podcast, like I was high on this team. I'm at
Mhm.
a point where I don't view this team as a Stanley Cup contender. So what are we doing here? We're trying to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like, is that the hope that you get in and anything is possible? Like, I don't look at this team and this roster and think, my goodness, they're going to find their way to a cup final, then they're going to win the Stanley Cup. Like, this is as far away as the Maple Leafs have been in years, in my opinion. They're going the other way.
Maybe.
Disagree?
I don't know if they're fully going the other way. I think there's some fine tuning that needs to be done. Obviously,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
like on the surface, I liked past tense because I don't right now. Although we had a good game Saturday, but I liked the addition of Dakota Joshua because that's the type of player. What the type
Yeah.
stylistically of what he brings is what the Leafs needed, but he just hasn't done that yet. He hasn't brought that physical edge, that in your face, that muckiness, along with some goal scoring that they needed, that they thought they were getting. I like the addition of Nick Waugh. Sound third line center, legit guy. Add him with Joshua, and then you get a speedster or somebody that can create a little bit of offense on the other wing, which is where I thought Cowan was going to be to start the year, and they played around with that in camp and then veered off it because Lawton got hurt and then everything got blown up. But I think this is a combo for this season because, look, JT's having a great year. Willie's having a great year. Let's see what Nyes is having a great year. Let's see what Matthews does with, word of the day, consistency. More games under his belt. Let's see if he elevates. So you want to see those guys continuing to do well. But then at the same time, as this is a bit of a transition type season, because you've got more flexibility to play with in the offseason, you want to see guys like Easton Cowan building up confidence and playing more and seeing if he's going to earn more ice time and just let him get properly acclimated to the NHL consistently. So you want to see the younger guys that you have taking advantage of that. At the same time, nobody wants to hear this. At the same time, it's also a business, and making the playoffs from a business perspective, even if it's a first round exit, is very, very valuable. So there's the business element of making the playoffs. And then there's obviously the sports side of winning, which everybody wants. And winning also factors into the business side, obviously. But so it's kind of twofold. And the third thing is, what are we going to tell these guys to tank? No. You're a legit athlete. You're going to say, fuck off. I'm going to go play. You don't like me, you can bench me. You're still paying me, sure. But they're not benching Willie Nylander and John Tavares and all that. Stop doing so well. Kiss my ass. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, if you ever did that, they'd probably start winning games. Maybe they should do that as motivation. And I've been on the record, like I don't think this team is bad enough to finish bottom five. I think we have to be realistic and resign to the fact that the Boston Bruins are going to get a really sexy draft pick coming up in June. Like I'm at that point, Dave, where they're probably getting 9 to 13 in the first round here.
Look, I'm not from here. You are too, but you've been here longer than I have in terms of Toronto. But that mindset, just there's a lot of pessimism around this team, which I get. But they are, they go on a heater. Everybody's motivation's changing in the city. Obviously, they win these next few, then everybody's going to start riding this a little bit more. So which is funny because this is definitely a roller coaster type of city, market wise, with any team. But again, healthy. Let's see what the consistency level brings. I'm not expecting this team, and I've said it a number of times, they're not a Stanley Cup top tier team. They're not the Colorados and Dallases of the East by any stretch, but they're also not bottom. Like they're 3 in the Atlantic wild card type team. But let's see if they can be more than that with what they've got. And that's where you give guys like Cowan more responsibility. Some of these guys that you brought in, more ice time, more responsibility to earn it and harness that shit.
I'm surprised at how optimistic you are. Like you're more optimistic than me that they can turn this around and find their footing a bit. I don't know.
I'm more optimistic that they're not going to be total shit for the rest of the season and a bottom feeder type team.
Yeah.
They're middle of the pack, but
sure.
Where in the middle, that's what I want to see. That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I'm just scared. Like, I'm not at a point where I want to find out if they're going to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's cup or bust for me, and I don't view this team as anywhere close to being a team that's going to go to even the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So ultimately, what the hell are we doing here is the question. At the Leaf Station, 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as we bring in today's guest, the one and only from Sportsnet. It is Anna Dua. Anna, what's going on? How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Fantastic. It's a Monday. I went through a rant to start the show. My credit cards were stolen at the gym the other day, feeling like shit. But anyways, the Maple Leafs. Your overall reaction to this weekend, Anna?
I think that the Leafs had a statement game that they were waiting to make, especially after the game they played previously to that. It's been a roller coaster of a ride pretty much this entire season with this team, but that game against the Penguins was the kind of game the Leafs needed to remind everyone that they're still in it. And I was listening to Dave right before I hopped on here, and he's very right. Like, the standings are still really close, specifically in the Eastern Conference, that if they go on a little bit of a run here, you can almost kind of forget the start of the year that they've had so far. And honestly, some of their losses that they've had recently, like I look back to the game they played against Columbus at home, that was a game that I was really happy with the way they were playing coming straight out of the gate, and they ended up losing that game. So it's not so much about the box score, it's about them finding chemistry and a team dynamic, and that Pittsburgh game seemed to be like a step in the right direction, but we'll see. They have 2 tough games coming up to follow that up with.
And it was also a response game, right? From letting it slip away Friday, coming back into it on Saturday, and then kind of getting that mindset in there in preparation for these games moving forward, because these are attainable. These are tough matches, like you said, but they're also attainable. So you want to see. I would imagine your mindset similar here, taking that what they did, Anna, on in response on Saturday, and then bringing that with them into tomorrow's game at the very least against Florida.
Well, see, now this is the real challenge, right? I know a lot of folks were a little bit down on the Leafs train even heading into that Pittsburgh game, but the Florida Panthers and then the
Yeah.
Carolina Hurricanes next up, those are 2 very difficult opponents. Those are very, very solid teams, and even in the Carolina game in Toronto, it was an insane game just with the level of shots that the Hurricanes put up against this Leafs team, and I was surprised that the final score was what it was in that game with the way the Hurricanes played. So taking that momentum from the Pittsburgh game and going into Florida, going into Carolina, those are 2 actual tests, and getting a point at least in both those games, or ideally wins in both of those games, that's definitely the key to turning this momentum around, because those are 2 massive, massive ego boosts for this team that has all the pieces. It's not like they don't have the ability to play the same type of hockey we saw at the end of last season. Despite all the injuries, obviously they've been dealt really bad injury luck to start this year. They just don't have the same chemistry and the same commitment to the team identity I feel like we saw at the end of last season when they went on a crazy run to close out the regular season. But these next 2 games and the opponents they're specifically playing against, this is the best opportunity they have to kind of wipe away the first quarter of the season that they've played so far.
Yeah, that's a good point. They got to be dialed in. I think the big word you used there was chemistry. We haven't really seen that through 25 games, but the Washington game really pissed me off, where they had them. They were up 2-0, couldn't close the door. Saturday, much better. But what was the biggest positive you could grab from the weekend? Obviously, some great stories. McMahon, that line in general with Joshua and Wah was really good. The goaltending's been a strong point the last little while. What was the biggest positive you can draw from the weekend?
I think the goaltending's really up there. I think everything that Joseph Woll has done since he's come back, and even in Anthony Stolarz' absence, Dennis Hildeby, like, there's a sense of security in the Leafs crease, which is really nice, because Joseph Woll, like, coming back the way he did during the season, it seems like he's in midseason form immediately. He's playing really good hockey and has held the Leafs in a lot of games. So even their current losses that have happened recently, you can't really blame Joe Woll for that. That's up there. But what you said about Dakota Joshua and Nick Raw and that line kind of getting going, these are the pieces that the Leafs added this offseason to offset the big loss of Mitch Marner going the other direction. And not saying that they were meant to replace Mitch Marner. They were just supposed to add to the way the Leafs play. They play Craig Berube hockey. They're supposed to play hard hockey. They're supposed to win battles. And those are guys that you kind of expected to show up. Nick Raw is tough because he was playing really good hockey right until he got injured, which was difficult to see because I feel like the next game would have been a really, really strong game for him. But now he's back. He had a very good outing. Dakota Joshua is the guy that I've kind of been waiting to see him get unlocked. He's been a little bit underwhelming for me starting this season so far, but that was a highlight point for him as well. And Bobby McMahon was such a low-key storyline last season. I feel like he was having a heck of a year for himself and it was flying under the radar, but it all counts in the end. And this year, slow year for Bobby McMahon to kick things off. So seeing that bottom six scoring kind of come together, the Leafs bottom six last season when they did so well during the regular season, I feel like it brought a lot of identity to the rest of their lineup, and that just kind of hasn't been there, probably because the bottom six changes every single game. But it's nice to see something kind of beginning to click down there.
And it's changed so much because of the injuries, right? So just Chief trying to like rejig the roster a little bit. You mentioned that chemistry. It's got to be, now that they're healthier, it's got to be a little bit easier if they're stringing some games together fully healthy, to see if they can reestablish some of that chemistry to kind of get going, right? Like you want to see that again, consistency. That's the message of the friggin' show that I'm bringing. But just to see that level of consistency playing, because that's going to build off chemistry. And if you can count on your secondary scoring, that makes life a little bit easier.
Chief was really big on duos. That's been his kind of thing, to have duos on all of his lines and find a good complementary piece as the third piece on their line. And this year, just because of the injuries and all of the shakeups, it seems like there wasn't even two guys who played together on a game-to-game basis. Like every practice, every game I'm walking in, there's completely different lines, and it's tough to build momentum and build that chemistry. But now it seems like we're back to the Matthew Nyes and the Austin Matthews, John Tavares and the William Nylander, which worked so well for this team last year. And when we look at their bottom six, Scott Laughton being back too, I mean, like he's had a tough break to start off this season. And I think that him being back and kind of helping round out their bottom six is so critical. I'm excited to see him, Steven Lorentz, that kind of identity line. We saw that at the end of last year too. Like having a line like that in your bottom six is so critical. And the new guys coming in with Raw and Joshua finding their own in this team. Like I'm seeing the duos kind of form in my head the way Chief likes them to exist. And then finding the right piece to fix the rest of that line will be his end goal. I don't know if he's committed to the lineup he has right now. I'm sure it's going to change still, but having those duos still intact is so critical because that's what worked for them. This team isn't that different from last year. It really isn't. I know they lost a big piece, Mitch Marner, but like a lot of the players that stood on their head last season, they're still very much on this roster. It's just about the fact that it seems to not have clicked this year for some reason. And I'm hoping that eventually, especially with a game like the game they had against Pittsburgh, we're going to see them finally come back to playing the hockey that they can play, that all of these guys did play on this team last year when they were at the top of the division.
You're right about Scott Laughton, too. It's a small sample size, but I think he's been really, really effective, specifically on the PK. And I just didn't like that hit by Malkin. Nobody's really talking about it, but I think players around the league have to know what the hell's going on. And Laughton to come back the way he did, but go at him. I like McCabe with the cross checks, too, so that was great to see. But I want to get your thoughts on Oliver Ekman-Larsson having an unbelievable run right now. He's had a really strong offensive season, actually on pace for his highest point total ever, actually.
Yeah, and he's just like climbing up the leaderboard for like the most point streak in Leafs defenseman history or something right now. I think he's been one of those guys that's really flown under the radar. When I was looking at the point streak he was on, I was like, why is no one talking about how many consecutive games Oliver Ekman-Larsson has had a point in? And he just plays very solid offensive hockey as a defenseman and is able to produce and reads the ice really well. There's times where he looks like he's just up there in the mix like another skater in their forward bunch, and he's just so talented. I think he adds a lot to their power play as well, their special teams that's trying to get going. That was such a strong point for the Leafs too, and it's just he is such a bright point when you look at the Leafs back end, which I think honestly that's been really tough for them. Losing Chris Tanev, he is kind of the identity of the Leafs back end, and the way he plays spreads across their defensive core, and him being out, I've been saying this pretty much the entire time, that's just been the biggest blow for this Leafs team. And this happened last year too. Like when Chris Tanev is not in the lineup, this Leafs team and their back end specifically just doesn't look the same. And Jake McCabe and other guys are kind of stepping up in that regards, but Oliver Ekman-Larsson doing whatever he's doing right now, that's the bright point for me of this D core right now. And I think that the injury scare was tough to see, but because you don't want any other players in their D core to go down. They've just had that worst luck ever. And I know there's no excuse, but it's tough to see these players get this momentum and then have to deal with certain concerns about whether they're going to play or if they're hurt or whatever that's been going on in Toronto so far. But everything Oliver Ekman-Larsson has done has just been incredible. And he's been such a strong positive to this decor that needs to take the next step, because that was something we talked about too. Like, a lot of these players are returning from last year. You don't really see that happen that often. And the goalies talked about how excited they were to play behind a decor like the decor they played behind last year. And it just seems like it's so drastically different right now.
Yes, and yeah, they're reaching for their games. Some of the guys, for some reason. We touched on chemistry and consistency and all that. Easton Cowan, still getting bounced around a little bit. Where in a perfect world do you see him fitting best for the rest of this season? If we're
I
throwing
actually
him,
really like
we talked
him
about
playing. Yeah, I really like him playing
Okay.
with JT and Willie. Like, I actually like
Yeah.
that where it's at right now, just because Easton is a player that complements the way John Tavares, I think even more than Willie, John Tavares plays so well. And Willie's one of those guys that can finish any play in any situation, and I think he's a pretty much good fit on any line. But I like what Easton Cowan can take away from JT, and we've seen that with JT putting in the effort to set him up to finally break through and get those goals. And just those two guys playing together is really, in my head, a good situation for Easton's growth. And he's really impressed me as a player. I've kind of talked about this a decent amount recently. Even during their slump, he's still so young, but the level of accountability and the responsibility that he has is just way beyond his years. Despite the fact that he gets opportunities, he's been very, very adamant about how it's his responsibility when he's given those big 6 minutes, when he's given those critical game time opportunities to produce and find a way to finish. And it doesn't really matter if he isn't able to finish. That level of maturity and just focusing on getting it done for the team is really commendable for a player of his age. And John Tavares is, you can ask anyone in the league, one of the most hardworking, one of the most routine oriented and just like effort building guys. And Easton playing with someone like JT and building that chemistry with someone like JT, I just think it's great for his future on and off the ice. But I like the way they look when they play together.
I'm so fascinated by Tuesday night. The Panthers are severely banged up. They're a point up on the Maple Leafs in the standings right now. What's your expectation here for the rematch, Leafs and Panthers, first time since Game 7?
This is a great opportunity because you're right. Like, with all the injury issues that the Leafs are dealing with, the Florida Panthers have had no better injury luck so far to kick off the season. And this is a great opportunity for the Leafs to make some sort of statement here. They're getting their players back, right? Like, they have Matthew Knies back, Austin Matthews back, Nick Wallace back. They're injury players that have been haunting the Leafs for the last couple of weeks. They're back in the lineup. They had that game against Pittsburgh, and now this is the time to make a run. It's not about just getting one win here or there, picking up a point in an OT loss. It's about getting a series of wins, stringing them together, because then all of a sudden you have momentum. And it's not, the standings are so close. Like, they're in a really fortunate situation right now where I feel like in the West, the Colorado Avalanche are like a juggernaut. And when you look at the East, it's still tight. Like, if the Leafs string together 3 or 4 wins, then all of a sudden you're right back in the action and you kind of forget where they are at right now. And Florida is just depleted. So going up against this Panthers team, a divisional matchup, getting a win here, stringing together 2 wins, that's what this team needs desperately right now to be able to close out this year strong.
Really is wide open, and we'll see what happens starting Tuesday night here as the Leafs visit the Florida Panthers. Anna, excellent stuff. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your Monday.
You too. Take care. That's Anna Dua from Sportsnet breaking things down for us. And 2 more games left on this road trip. At the Panthers Tuesday, at the Carolina Hurricanes coming up on Thursday. And at the very least, you need 2 of 4 points here. But I think this Florida one, if you can find a way, Dave, to win this game in regulation, start to feel a bit better about this team, I think.
Yeah, and that's what we've been saying. That was the messaging from Anna as well, is consistency. Can you roll with this? A good response game Saturday, pick it up from there. Keep going. Get these guys going a little bit further. Can they string that win tomorrow? Can they string 3? Statement game. You want to talk about a statement game? If you can pull off what you did against Pittsburgh, pull out a W against Florida, and then pull it off against Carolina right now, that's your statement stretch. That should be what's going to push you in a better direction just from a confidence side of things. Because these guys, they hear it all the time. We go in the locker room, we ask them these stupid questions about how does it feel to be, losing another one and letting one slip away. And you're telling me that they're not frustrated by that? Of course they are. So let's see if they can string together that stretch, and then suddenly the mood shifts, the confidence shifts, and you're feeling better about life just in general.
Dude, this is a good one. At 6-hole, I didn't know Brendan Fraser knew so much about hockey. We've never really talked about that. Your doppelganger's the guy on Broadway. Juan Manuel Miranda, whatever his name is.
Yeah, I don't know. You tell me that. I had that. What was that in Montreal during the Leaf game? Somebody asked me about that too. I don't know.
Yeah,
Brendan
you
Fraser?
look like him, but somebody thinks you look like Brendan Fraser, I guess. How's a new Mummy movie coming out soon, right?
Well, I hope it's Mummy Brendan Fraser, not like the whale Brendan Fraser. That'd be fuck. That hurts.
You are a stud, Dave. We love you. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. So Brandon Carlo could come back. I believe the Leafs are practicing later on today. The power play is still a big point of contention for me. 10 for 63 on the year. They score over the weekend, still 2 for the last 17. We've got a good look at this 5-forward set. I just don't know how long this is going to last. I'll say that.
Well, I mean, Berube talked about it the other day too. Like, let's just see if we can get healthier, and then that'll change eventually. You just roll. You're also just trying to get that going. Like the power play was garbage at the start of last season too. Like I think around the 30-40% mark, it started to wake up a little bit, almost towards the halfway point. It started to wake up. I don't know what did the trick. They didn't really change much. But they started to find the back of the net. Like this is the same crap that they had to deal with last year, where just the power play in the first half of the season, first quarter was just garbage town. And now it's, and then afterwards it started to get going. So now we're kind of at that hovering point where it's going to tip in one way or it's going to just fall back, and they're going to continue to be crap. But Mark Savard, whoever is handling this thing right now, they got to find some answers, because it's important, obviously, to be taking advantage of the man advantage.
And that'll be a deciding factor. You'd have to think in this game against the Florida Panthers, 2 against severely banged up. You got to find a way to win this game. And I just think it's really interesting how you look at Florida, and granted they've won back-to-back Stanley Cups, but maybe it's just about the market and it's about what we've seen so far, but they're pretty much right there neck and neck in the standings with the Maple Leafs. And it's like the whole sky's falling approach here. And in Florida, they're like, okay, Matthew's going to come back soon. We're a couple points out of a playoff spot. And, we're feeling okay about life. It's amazing perspective-wise.
Yeah, I mean, they do. The climate, I'm sure, helps.
Sure.
A little bit, a little extra sun, get a little more vitamin D. You're feeling better about life. I don't know what the hell's going on the last few days here, but it's just, look, you go to 3 Stanley Cups back to back to back, you're going to have your fan base is going to have a certain level of confidence too. It's like, all right, well, we're shit right now. We'll get through it.
Yeah.
And we'll be fine. I think that's their mindset too, because keep in mind the other thing, not just with Tkachuk coming back at some point this month, the later part of the month, that's kind of their time frame in game action, I mean. But they also didn't shut down Barkov for the full season. Like, he's on LTIR, but they didn't do the season-ending LTIR. So they're thinking, their mindset has to be, we get to round 2, maybe we get the captain back a little bit early.
It's pretty crazy, right? Yeah, that would be massive, right? But I think it starts with this one for the Maple Leafs, and there's got to be, I would hope there's got to be a level of motivation considering how last season ended. But again, we've said that so many times on this show, and then they come out and shit themselves. It's just been a difficult building for the Maple Leafs to play.
Honestly, I hope they're not even thinking about last season. Who gives a shit? They got so many issues right now that they've had to deal with. Just focus on now. Who cares about the playoffs the last few years? Doesn't matter, because that was then. Now, build off of Saturday. For the love of God, build off of Saturday. Who gives a shit about the Panthers last year? It doesn't matter. Build off Saturday and go from there. They're banged up. They're a little depleted. Perfect. Perfect time to pounce. Build off what you did on Saturday and take that into Raleigh on Thursday.
Small blood. We'll see what happens here. It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. Simple play for me tonight. It's close to even money for some reason. Maybe the market and Vegas knows more than we do. Winnipeg at Buffalo. And I know Eric Comrie's playing, but I'm still taking the Winnipeg Jets money line in that game, especially at that value. I have to do it. Buffalo stinks, so I'm taking Winnipeg in that game.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I could. Yeah, the Sabres are going to saber. So they got a lot of. Speaking of, they got a lot of shit they got to worry about too. I didn't think I would be going into this season thinking about, hey, Utah San Jose is probably going to be a pretty good game, but
yeah.
Here we are. Like that's what I'm looking at tonight. I'm taking the over in that one. I think it's at 5.5. I think Utah and good news on Cooley. Looks like it wasn't full knee on knee, just a hard Charlie.
Yeah.
So that's good for him, but and his brand new contract. But Utah, San Jose. I think that's going to be a firefight. So I'm going over in that one.
All right, Dave, excellent stuff, and we look forward to Tuesday. Jay Roseville back in the mix, and we're going to preview Leafs and Panthers' first installment since their battle last spring. Of course, Game 7 didn't go according to plan for the Maple Leafs, and maybe first time to get some retribution on the Florida Panthers. We'll see what happens, but thank you so much for the last couple episodes. We'll talk soon, okay?
You got it, bud. Enjoy the hockey.
You too, bud. There you have it, Dave Pagnotta, the fourth period. Thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys are great. At the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Dave Pagnotta, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Roseville. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.